I, 33F, have been married to my husband Mark, 33M, for 8 years. We met during our pharmacy residency and got married after dating for 2 years. Our relationship was always solid, we supported each other's careers, shared the same professional interests, and had similar goals in life. We even worked at the same hospital for a while before Mark decided he wanted to specialize further. 6 months ago, we moved across the country because Mark got accepted into a specialized medical program. It was a big decision, but I supported him completely. I had to leave my established position at a prestigious hospital and start over in a new state. Luckily, with my experience, I found a good job quickly and have been working full-time while he studies. We have a 3-year-old daughter Amy who's still adjusting to the move. The transition hasn't been easy, new daycare, no family nearby, and both parents busy with work and school. But we were managing okay until September when things started changing. Mark began his program in July with 15 other students. One of them is Carol, 30F, who I met briefly during orientation. She seemed nice enough then, married, moved here for the program just like us, professional. Nothing stood out about her initially. Everything changed during a vendor fair at his school in September. I took time off work to go with Mark because they were offering student discounts on equipment we both use in our field. While we were looking at displays, Carol came over to say hi. What happened next still bothers me when I think about it. Mark immediately launched into this excessive praise about her skills. He kept saying she's the best here, you should see her technique, everyone knows she's going to be top of the class. Then he announced he was going to ask her to do his procedure, something I've been offering to do for the past 3 years since it's literally my specialty. I've brought it up countless times, but he always said he wasn't ready or needed more time to think about it. Standing there listening to him praise her expertise over mine felt like a slap in the face. What made it worse was Carol's fake modest response, "Oh stop, I'm not that good, you're just saying that," while clearly enjoying the attention. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to make a scene, but it hurt. Things got worse after that. A few weeks later, he was complaining about their pharmacology final. He made this comment about how another classmate Amber was asking a male student for help when her husband was a pharmacist. I couldn't help pointing out the irony. I'm a pharmacist too, but he prefers Carol for his procedure. His response floored me. He got this nervous look and said, "It's different, those two pharmacists are from different countries. You and Carol are both from here, one is just better than the other." The moment the words left his mouth, he tried backtracking. "Well no, I didn't mean it that way, you know what I'm trying to say." I was getting ready for my hospital shift and didn't have time for an argument, so I just laughed it off with "keep talking and we'll end up divorced," and left. Inside, I was crushed. My husband of 8 years basically admitted he thinks his classmate is better than me at our shared profession. After that incident, I started paying more attention to how often he talks about Carol. It's constant, "Carol said this in class, Carol's technique is amazing, Carol made this funny comment." Then I found out she's having marriage problems. When I asked how he knew, he proudly told me she confided in him personally, not their study group, just him alone. They have a study group with 3 other women, but apparently Carol chose to cry to my husband privately about her marriage issues. I tried explaining to him that this level of emotional intimacy with another woman makes me uncomfortable. He dismissed my concerns, saying I was being oversensitive and that he can't be rude to a classmate. But it's gone way beyond normal classmate interaction. This morning was the last straw. I woke up early and saw him texting her before he even said good morning to me. He was asking how she slept, sending her pictures of his breakfast, telling her to make coffee for him if she gets to school first. She replies with heart emojis and cutesy messages. Who texts their married classmate first thing in the morning? We barely see each other anymore between my hospital shifts, his classes, and caring for Amy. The little time we do have together is now tense because whenever I try to discuss my concerns, he gets defensive. He uses this manipulative tactic of saying, "Fine, I just won't talk to anyone anymore if that makes you happy, or I guess I should just drop out since you can't handle me having female classmates." Yesterday, while he was in the shower, his phone kept buzzing with messages. I know I shouldn't have looked, but something in my gut told me to check. Carol had sent him this long message about her marriage problems, saying she feels more understood by Mark than her own husband. His response made my blood run cold. He told her she deserves better and suggested meeting outside of school to talk more. When I confronted him, he exploded about privacy invasion and called me controlling. He said I was turning innocent friendship into something it wasn't. But if it's so innocent, why hide it? Why meet secretly? Why text constantly? My sister Sarah, 35F, thinks I should trust my instincts. She went through something similar with her ex who also claimed his coworker was just a friend until she caught them together. My best friend Emma, 34F, lost her marriage the same way. It started with innocent texts and coffee meetings before class. I feel like I'm going crazy. I moved across the country, left my job, started over in a new state, and have been supporting our family financially while he studies. Now I'm watching him develop feelings for someone else while being told I'm paranoid for noticing. The worst part is, I think he genuinely believes he's done nothing wrong. Am I really being oversensitive? Is this normal student behavior that I'm misinterpreting? Should I be more understanding of him having female friends? I just can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. Reading your responses made me realize I wasn't being paranoid. Many of you noticed red flags I'd been trying to ignore. Things have gotten significantly worse since I last posted. After reading comments suggesting I trust my instincts, I decided to do some investigating. What I found made me sick to my stomach. I started by checking our phone records. Mark and Carol exchange hundreds of texts daily, often late into the night when he claims he's studying. Most concerning are the patterns, messages starting at 6 a.m., before he even gets out of bed, and continuing until midnight or later. There are dozens of lengthy phone calls too, always when I'm at work or after I've gone to bed. Last week, I ran into Lisa, 31F, another student from their study group, at the grocery store. She made a comment about how close Mark and Carol have become. When I pressed for details, she seemed uncomfortable but eventually told me some things that confirmed my worst fears. Apparently, Carol's marriage troubles conveniently started right after she met Mark. Lisa said Carol barely spoke about her husband James, 32M, during the first months of the program. But after getting close to Mark, she suddenly started complaining about James constantly. Lisa also mentioned that Carol's behavior changes completely when Mark's around. She gets flirty, laughs at all his jokes, and always manages to sit next to him. The biggest shock came when James himself reached out to me on Facebook. He sent a long message explaining that Carol told him I was a controlling wife who wouldn't let Mark have female friends. She painted me as some jealous psycho who was causing problems in their innocent friendship. James reached out because he noticed Carol becoming increasingly distant and staying late for study groups that he later discovered didn't exist. James and I compared notes, and the timelines matched perfectly. Carol started pulling away from him right when her friendship with Mark intensified. She's been making excuses about late labs and study sessions, the exact same times Mark tells me he's at the library. Speaking of lies about his schedule, I discovered something that proves he's been deliberately deceiving me. Mark told me he has mandatory evening labs on Tuesdays and Thursdays until 8 p.m. But when I mentioned this to Lisa, she looked confused and said their program doesn't have any evening classes those days. Everything is scheduled between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Suspicious, I checked his location history. We share locations for safety since I work late hospital shifts. On those evenings, he's been going to a cafe near Carol's apartment complex. Not the school library like he claimed, not the study rooms, but a small cafe just 2 blocks from where she lives. The final straw was finding unexplained charges on our joint credit card. Dinner for 2 at romantic restaurants, movie tickets, even a jewelry store purchase, all on evenings he was supposedly studying. When I checked the locations, they were all places near Carol's apartment. I confronted Mark with everything I'd found. Instead of showing remorse or trying to explain, he turned it all around on me. He called me crazy for investigating him and said this proves exactly why he can't be honest with me. He claimed he lied about his schedule because I'm too controlling and he needed space to study without my constant suspicion. When I asked about the restaurant charges, he claimed they were group dinners with classmates. But Lisa already told me their study group hasn't met outside school in weeks because everyone's busy with midterms. I've moved into the guest room and only speak to him about Amy. She's noticed the tension. Yesterday she asked why Daddy doesn't eat dinner with us anymore. It breaks my heart that her home life is being disrupted by this. Mark's family is now involved, but not in a helpful way. His mother called me crying about how I'm destroying her son's chance at a better career by not trusting him to have female friends. His sister, who I was once close to, sent me a long text about how I'm being paranoid and need to work on my insecurities. They don't know about the lies, the secret meetings, or the credit card charges because Mark's only told them his version of events. My parents think I should take Amy and stay with them for a while. They live 3 hours away and have offered to help with childcare while I figure things out. Part of me wants to go, but I'm worried about disrupting Amy's routine even more. She just started making friends at her new daycare, and I don't want to put her through another move. I've started documenting everything, the phone records, credit card statements, screenshots of his location history, and my conversations with Lisa and James. My sister says I need to protect myself in case things get worse. She thinks Mark and Carol are having an emotional affair at minimum, possibly more. The hardest part is watching the man I loved and trusted for 8 years turn into someone I don't recognize. He's gone from being my best friend and partner to someone who lies to my face and makes me question my own sanity. Last night, he had the audacity to tell me that my paranoid behavior is pushing him away and forcing him to confide in others. As if his lies and betrayal are somehow my fault. I don't know what to do next. Part of me wants to fight for my marriage, but a bigger part knows that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. How can I ever believe anything he says again? Even if he ended all contact with Carol today, how could I trust he wouldn't just hide it better next time? I have a consultation with a divorce lawyer next week. I'm not making any decisions yet, but I need to know my options. I never thought I'd be in this position, supporting my husband through school while he builds a relationship with another woman behind my back. Right now, I'm focusing on being present for Amy and maintaining my performance at work. I can't let this situation affect my career or my daughter's well-being. But I feel like I'm just going through the motions, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Update 2 will come after my lawyer consultation, or sooner if anything significant happens. Thank you all for helping me see that I'm not crazy for being concerned. Update 2 I finally got the confirmation I needed, but the truth was worse than I imagined. After my last update, James, Carol's husband, and I met for coffee to compare notes about what's been happening. What we discovered left both of us devastated. James had gotten suspicious when Carol started putting a passcode on her phone and turning it face down whenever he was nearby. He noticed she'd been staying late at school even during exam breaks, and her excuses weren't adding up. The final straw for him was when he saw a notification pop up on their shared iPad from Mark saying he couldn't wait to hold her again. It turns out Carol hadn't been deleting her messages on the iPad, which was still syncing with her phone. James showed me screenshots that made me physically sick. Mark and Carol had been planning a future together for months. They talked about how they were meant to find each other and how their marriages were holding them back from true happiness. The messages went back further than I thought, all the way to August, just a month after the program started. They discussed their deep connection and how they wished they'd met before getting married to other people. There were detailed conversations about their plans to leave us after Mark graduates next year. They'd even been looking at apartments together during those fake study sessions. The worst part? They've been physical since September. All those late-night study sessions and coffee meetings were actually dates. They used schoolwork as an excuse to spend time together, knowing James and I would be supportive of their education. There were messages about hotels they'd visited and plans for future meetups. When I confronted Mark with the evidence, he didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he turned it into an attack on me. He said my constant suspicion and controlling behavior had pushed him away, and that Carol understands him in a way I never could. He actually had the audacity to suggest we try to work things out while he figures out his feelings. I asked him about Amy, about our 8 years together, about the life we built. His response? Sometimes people grow apart. Carol and I have a connection I can't ignore. I never meant for this to happen, but I can't help how I feel. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer and started documenting everything. James is doing the same. We've both moved our money into separate accounts after discovering our spouses had been using joint funds for their affair, hotel rooms, dinners, gifts. Mark's family finally believes me after I showed them the messages. His mother, who previously accused me of being paranoid, now calls daily crying and begging me to give him another chance. She keeps saying he's just confused and going through a phase because of the stress of the program. His sister, who was defending him last update, now wants to beat some sense into him. The most ironic part? Carol's not the perfect student Mark made her out to be. James showed me her grades. She's barely passing some classes. Turns out those long study sessions weren't about academics at all. My paranoid concerns about their relationship actually have affected their studies. They'd both been put on academic probation for poor performance. I've moved out of our bedroom completely and am staying in the guest room until I can find an apartment. Mark has the nerve to act hurt about this, saying I'm being dramatic and tearing our family apart. He still thinks we can work this out. He suggested marriage counseling yesterday, saying he's willing to try if I can get past this and accept that Carol will be part of his life. Amy's been asking why Daddy doesn't play with her as much anymore. She caught him video chatting with Carol the other night and asked who the pretty lady was. Mark told her it was his special friend from school. I've never wanted to slap someone so hard in my life. The divorce paperwork is being prepared. I'm going for primary custody since Mark's clearly not prioritizing our daughter's well-being. He missed her daycare parent-teacher conference last week because he was having lunch with Carol. When I confronted him about it, he said he forgot, but his location showed he was at a restaurant near Carol's apartment during the meeting time. James and I have been supporting each other through this nightmare. We're both focused on documenting everything for our divorces and trying to maintain our dignity despite our spouse's complete lack of remorse. Neither of us ever expected to be in this position, but at least we're not going through it alone. My next update will probably be about the divorce proceedings. Mark still doesn't know I'm filing. I'm waiting until everything is in order. Given how he's been acting, I expect him to make this as difficult as possible once he realizes I'm serious about leaving. To everyone who told me to trust my gut and investigate further, thank you. You helped me find the truth before they could blindside us with their love story next year. Update 3. I want to thank everyone who's followed this nightmare and supported me through it. The divorce is finally finalized, and I can share how everything played out. After my last update, things moved quickly. The day Mark was served divorce papers, he completely lost it. He showed up at my workplace, causing a scene in the hospital lobby about how I was destroying our family over nothing. Security had to escort him out. Carol was with him, trying to convince my co-workers that they were just friends and I was mentally unstable. That stunt actually worked in my favor during custody negotiations. Mark and Carol didn't even wait for our divorces to be final before moving in together. They got an apartment 2 months ago, telling everyone they were tired of hiding their love and life is too short to deny their feelings. The karma that followed was almost poetic. Their relationship started affecting their studies even more. Both nearly failed out of the program because they were too busy playing house to study. Mark's grades dropped so low he was placed on academic probation. Carol failed 2 important exams and had to petition to retake them. Their dream of graduating together might not happen. Turns out romance doesn't help you pass medical boards. The custody battle was surprisingly straightforward after Mark missed Amy's birthday. He chose to go on a weekend trip with Carol to celebrate their new beginning instead of attending his daughter's party. Even his own mother stopped defending him after that. The judge was not impressed by his priorities. I got primary custody, with Mark getting every other weekend. But even that's too much commitment for him. He's already canceled 3 weekends because of study emergencies that mysteriously coincide with Carol's free time. Amy came home from her last visit talking about how Daddy's new friend keeps trying to get her to call her bonus mommy. I shut that down immediately through my lawyer. The financial settlement was interesting. Since I supported us through his schooling, the judge ordered him to repay a portion of those expenses. Now he's complaining about how child support and repayment are affecting his fresh start with Carol. Apparently, their love story isn't as magical when it involves actual responsibilities. Mark's family has completely shifted sides. His mother apologized for not believing me sooner and regularly sends Amy gifts and care packages. His sister blocked Carol on all social media after Carol tried to post about being a bonus mom to my daughter. James and I have maintained our friendship through all this. We meet regularly with other members of a local divorce support group. It's been helpful to connect with people who understand what we're going through. We're both focused on our careers and co-parenting our respective kids rather than jumping into new relationships. The best revenge has been living well. I got a major promotion at work and bought my own house, something Mark said we'd never be able to afford. Amy loves her new room, and we've made it our happy place. She's in therapy to deal with the changes, but her counselor says she's adjusting well. Last week, I heard through mutual friends that Carol's getting frustrated with Mark's lack of ambition since he's struggling in the program. Apparently, she expected him to be this brilliant, successful doctor, not someone on academic probation who can barely pay his bills. Their perfect love story is showing some cracks now that reality has set in. For those wondering if I regret anything, only that I didn't trust my instincts sooner. But I'm proud that I maintained my dignity through it all. I never stooped to their level or let their behavior change who I am. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this journey. Sometimes losing someone who doesn't respect you is the best thing that can happen. Amy and I are thriving in our new life, and that's all that matters. Update: since some asked about legal details, Mark and Carol both had to declare their relationship to the program administration. They are now barred from being study partners or working on projects together. The program director told me this affected both their professional recommendations. Karma works in mysterious ways.